Hello, everyone. We'll begin the webinar shortly. We're just waiting for more people to log in. Yep, just a reminder for those who just joined the call, we'll begin shortly. We're just waiting for more people to log in. All right, let's begin. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NurExone Biologic Inc. Investor Webinar. My name is Bob Chen, and I'll be the moderator for today's call. For those who don't know the company, NurExone is a biopharmaceutical firm based in Israel that is leveraging exosome technology to treat damage to the central nervous system, primarily acute spinal cord injuries. NurExone trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange under ticker NRX and on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange under ticker J90. Our panelists for today will be Dr. Leo Chattel, CEO of NurExone, and Yoram Drucker, Chairman of the Board of NurExone. And on today's call, we'll be covering NurExone's key business highlights and its growth outlook for 2023. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to send them in using the Zoom Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in to listen to this webinar, please email your questions directly to ir@nurexone.com, and we'll address these questions during the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. With that out of the way, I will now turn the call over to Dr. Leo.
Thank you so much, Bob. Great to be here. Happy to present to potential investors our presentation. Who is the company, who is behind the company, what is the science. Especially it's important for me because next month we're going to be in Toronto, visiting Toronto, and I would be very glad to find new investors, new interest of companies and VCs that interested in the company. So can you hear me? Sorry to say.
Yeah, we can.
Okay. I will move back. That's the disclaimer, and I will move directly to the first slide. As you said, we completed successfully in June 2022 RTO in the Toronto Stock Exchange Venture, and we are traded in this stock exchange together with the Frankfurt Stock Exchange. We are a biopharmaceutical company. Our front research is on the exosomes-based therapy. We research and mainly develop therapies using exosomes. I will explain you later what are exosomes, and our indication is CNS injuries, traumatic injuries. So our first product is focused on subpopulation on spinal cord injury, acute spinal cord injury. And I will show you today why this product and the platform that we develop can change and revolutionize our medicine and how we can deliver drugs to the CNS. So our asset as a NurExone is the technology, we call it exotherapy. It's the exosomes and the ability of the company to load those exosomes with the siRNA, okay? Our siRNA that can be addressed or target several genes. Our first product is ExoP10 that targets the gene PTEN. PTEN is a tumor suppressor that known for many years with when you downregulate it as a gene, you can cause a regeneration of neurons. What we try to do is take the therapeutic effect of exosomes, which you have it as a naive drug delivery system, with the therapeutic effect when you downregulate the gene, okay? And I will show you today some of the results that we have. We have a proof of concept using rats. In this proof of concept, we show that delivery of ExoP10 intranasally can reverse paralysis in rats in a model that is a full transection of the spinal cord. The technology came from two elite universities. One is the Technion and the second in Tel Aviv University. Professor Shulamit Levenberg from the Technion and Professor Danny Offen from Tel Aviv University joined together for more than 10 years, developing this technology from cells to exosomes and then the administration intranasally. We came as a company in 2020, begin our operation, and we are licensed those technology to commercialize and develop the ExoPit-10. I'm very happy that this month we receive allowance for our first patent that we licensed, which is the ExoPit-10 for intranasal administration, and we are continuing further on to submit the pre-IND for the FDA approval this year in the next coming weeks. The company is mainly the people. I, as a CEO, joined as a professional CEO in 2021, April 2021, established a team. All the team, R&D team, is with a doctor title and experience. Next to me, I myself, let's say I explain myself. First of all, I'm a chemical engineer with a background in physiology and pharmacology as a PhD. I came back after 8 years in Germany to Israel, and I joined several companies in the field of drug delivery. The last one was LipoCure, that the delivery system there is liposomes, is very similar in size to exosomes, and what I try to do in liposomes, I'm doing here in exosomes, in much easier way, because what we have here as the exosomes, we have a drug delivery system that can target specifically inflammation and what we want to target, and we can load it quite easily with the siRNA that has an effect. Next to me is the CFO, came with Ran Ovadia. He came from 2 decades of corporate finance, many years in Johnson & Johnson, and the R&D director, who is Liora Aharonov, with 15 years in experience in academy and industry in R&D. Together in our call, we have also Yoron Drucker. He's a serious entrepreneur in Israel, holds several companies in different fields. One of them is also a Canadian company, Inocan Pharma, and he has, of course, more. We can open to discussion later. Beside Liora and the R&D team, we are guided in the scientific advisor board with Shulamit Levenberg and Professor Nachshon Knoller, who was involved in another 3 different clinical spinal cord injuries. So it was important for us to have a scientific advisor board that has experience in such a complex indication, and what require us as a company when we design a spinal cord injury model. And I hope that this will bring a better success to the company in the near future when we get into the clinical trial. So in general, we have a hybrid model here. We have a portfolio company with the ExoPit-10 as our first product, using all the assets of the company, which we call exotherapy, as I said. We decided to go to an indication, which is acute spinal cord injury, because in this market, there is a potential to achieve award orphan drug designation, ODD, from the FDA, and the market is relative significant. It's $2.9 billion it's going to expect to be in 2027. Beside that, as we have a platform technology, which is the exosome production, exosome loading, and the ability to target specific genes using bioinformatics, and how we design the siRNA is not just a sequence, is how to modify the sequence, how to stabilize it, and how to load it. We can we are open to a discussion with companies that approach us and academias that would like to join for partnership or licensing agreement to develop further those exosomes to other indications, not only XOP10, and not necessarily also neurology. It can be also relevant for oncology and other indications. In this case, if you're taking the exosomes as a field of therapeutic or diagnostic, in this the global market that expected to be in 2020, 2030 is 2.3 billion. What is the science? We talk about exosomes. What are exosomes actually? Exosomes, also called extracellular vesicles, or EV, is not electrical vehicle, is extracellular vesicle in our case. And those are particles that appear in any person, okay? Because their nature is to communicate between cell and cell. And they, as I said, have the ability, first of all, to transfer cargo inside them. It can be RNA, DNA, and other ingredients. And we also can load it external cargo. In our case, it's the siRNA. As you can see here is a bilayer in a very small size, is around 120 nanometer. Nanometers is 10 in -9 meter, okay? With the siRNA, which is modified siRNA to be specific and stable, and this creates the XOP10 exotherapy platform. This RNA can be any siRNA that you can want to have towards different genes. So what is, okay, everybody is doing, a lot of companies doing exosomes. What is so unique about our exosomes? First of all, we have a patent on exosomes to administer intranasally, which is non-invasive, okay? Through the nose, getting to the CNS in a very good efficacy, okay? And this is a huge advantage because nobody would like to touch a back of a patient that just injured. We try to do it as much as we can, non-invasive. Second, our production methods, okay, allow us to produce exosomes in high affinity, and those exosomes are off-the-shelf product. They are not creating any immunogenicity in the body. It's not anymore CAR-T cell therapy cell therapy that needs to be adjusted between patient, okay? We can use we can use one product for several patients. And this is very, make the story much easier in comparing for the industry. By the way, the slide here, it just shows what is our vision and how we treat actually the rats. We use a spray, we use it in the rat is drops to the nose, it penetrates through the nose, the olfactory nerves, and then goes to the brain. And then from the brain in the CNS circuit is going to the spinal cord injury. In this slide is just an example to take also another CNS indication, which is stroke, which may be relevant also with our product XOP10, because stroke is also an example of a traumatic injury that XOP10 can be addressed. When we talk about exosomes, as I said, there is a therapeutic effect of the exosomes themselves naively. Okay, so in our our study before the company established, and also after the company established, we see the same. The exosomes has the ability to regenerate some neurons, but it's not translated into a functional recovery. Okay, only when you combine the exosomes with their therapy and with their therapeutic effect and the P10 as a siRNA, you can create a synergistic effect. Okay, and this can be translated finally to some functional recovery. When I say functional recovery, it's meaning sensoric, it's meaning motoric, it meaning even the control of the urine bladder. Those indications, okay, give us a strong hope that this exosome therapy can be translated in the clinical trials to a successfully product to human. The company is based on several IP, what we usually generate as a young company. We have the intranasal XOP10, which is licensed from the Technion and Tel Aviv University, as presented before, received just lately the allowance from the US Patent Trade Office. And we have two PCT licensed from the Technion on production and composition of matter of our exosomes, meaning that our exosomes, we can produce it in a high yield and they are more potent. And 4 additional provisional patents that own only 100% by the company for the loading technique, which is unique for the company, using completely different ways of loading. It's not involved any genetic modification of cells. Those technique of loading is post-production after you produce the exosomes. And our siRNA targets, which is not only P10. We will disclose it later during the development of the company, but we are not aiming only on the P10. We have other targets and we explore them later. So this is the road that we have. Those are the catalysts for the next year. So we filed already patents. We will have another patent this year. This quarter, we established the bioreactor to produce in large scale the XOP10, and we are preparing, doing gap analysis, the pre-IND. We're doing it after getting a positive letter from the FDA. We submitted in September last year an interact request. In the interact request, the FDA answered us that the meeting is not required. We can submit directly the pre-IND, and this is what we do. We finalize the product, meaning we build our CMC and TPP. CMC is a chemistry, manufacturing, and control file, which is required for the pre-IND. We are aiming to open our own R&D facility in the north of Israel, in Haifa. And by that, we will be able to produce enough material for the in vivo experience, which is required for the IND submission. When we have all that, we can conclude and wrap up the knowledge that we have for the IND submission. And after the IND submission, probably after a few months, if everything is correct, in 2024, we will be able to start clinical trials. So that's the take-off message for today. We are a cutting-edge technology, as you may saw. We have our platform technology in our first product. The product that we have is XOP10, and that shows already proof of concept in rat. And side by side, we have our strong platform that can be ready to build partners and partnerships and licensing out and commercialization for other companies that would like to use our technology. We have a strong team, the CFO that worked with me, the chairman, and the other R&D team. And we are publicly traded, so everything is transparent. The investors can trade our stocks. We show the investors with our PR, our development, and we want to deliver the strong potential returns to those investors. So I think this is a very easy way to deliver the science to investors also in Canada. This is in general our share structure. Those are the shares that we have at this point. We have more than 15 million warrants outside from our last RTO. We have options of workers, which, as you see, at this stage is less than 10%. And the fully diluted is more than 65 million shares. And with that, I'm going to conclude and open the webinar for questions. By the way, I'm not in Bar, I'm Lior. In Bar, if you have any questions, in Bar will be happy to assist you. She is the head of communication and the investor relationship.
Yep, if you have any questions for during this webinar, feel free to send them in using the Zoom Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're calling into this webinar, please email your questions directly to ir@nurexone.com. And the first question we have here is, can you discuss any ongoing studies or future plans for expanding the use of NurExone to other medical conditions?
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the presentation, beside our XOP10, we are aiming to other directions. We are focusing on neurology, so we are not going to other oncology or other indication. The field of neurology is wide enough for us. So we're targeting several other genes that may be relevant or potent to regeneration of neurons. And when we have that, and we have several results already, we can address other indication in the future.
Yep, and the next question here is, can you tell us more about NurExone's R&D facility?
So at the moment, we are located in Haifa. We are working hard to establish an R&D facility in the Technion, belong to NurExone with a long-term licensing of the place from the Technion. It's allow us to enter to a 190 square meters building with the ability to build 4 different labs, 2 chemically, 2 biology, and offices and open space. We're working on that at the moment, and this is under design and under final discussions with the Technion to sign the contract.
Next question is, why do you focus only on acute injuries and not on chronic? Because a lot of patients are in the chronic stage.
That's true. We try to work on the indication that may first be beneficial. I'm not saying that in the future we are not going to address chronic or delay injuries, which, as we are a young company, small and with limited resources, we would like to first focus on acute spinal cord injury, because in those patients, when they injure, the window, the therapeutic windows is limited. So let's try with that, be successful, and we may find ourselves also addressing in a clinical trials acute or delay spinal cord patients, but we need to focus due to our limited capacity.
Bob, it's Yoram. I just want to add one point. Regardless to what Lior mentioned, it's very important also to mention that from therapeutic potential and the ability to have immediate impact, having patients that are being injured in the last few weeks or months has a higher potential to be cured or to get a good response to the treatment compared to someone who had an injury 3 years ago. This is nature. So as Lior said, we are focusing in the most attractive and potentially diagnosed indication, and later on, as we move forward, we will start to pursue also for long what we call the chronic patient treatment.
I will say more than that. Yoram is one of the indication, one of the targets, siRNA targets that we are testing now are also going to address mainly acute, mainly chronic patients. And the knowledge that we will generate here now with those experience can be reflected in the future to other to the chronic patients and the ability of the company to address those patients too.
Now, in regards to partnerships and collaborations, what are some partnerships that have been established by NurExone in developing or commercializing your drug and technology platform?
Mm-hmm. So some of the partnerships are already published, and I will repeat it if somebody didn't have the time to read our press releases. We have a partnership with Polyryzen to deliver exosomes formulation for intranasal administration. Polyryzen is an Israeli company going soon to IPO in Nasdaq. They are specialized in building formulations for intranasal administration, and our partnership will allow the company to deliver together a formulation for any type of exosomes therapies. That's one. Other partnerships that we have is with a German company and UK company. One is the Novon Matrix is a German company dealing with how to produce more effectively exosomes in our bioreactor. Second is Nanometrics, is a company in the UK that help us to characterize better the intake and the loading capacity of our exosomes. It's mainly relevant for the characterization of our product. We continue working with other companies to establish new partnerships. At the moment, it's not disclosed, but we have new results, and hopefully we will publish it soon. Yeah.
And does NurExone have any M&A plans to acquire synergistic businesses that could fit the business model of the company?
So M&A as biotech company is always on the table. We want to establish our company passing the clinical trials, the first one, and I think the value of the company then will be significantly different than what we have now. More than that, we are happy to discuss, as I said in the presentation, partnership and licensing out of our platform technology for other indications, because this is also a way to expand the technology to other fields, and this will also may generate revenue to the company when we partner with other companies.
Next question here, which is kind of briefly covered in the presentation. When do you plan to test this therapy on humans and maybe to market it?
Say it again, I missed the question.
When do you plan to test this therapy on humans and maybe to market it?
So we expected, if everything will be fine and the submission of the IND will be this year or beginning of next year, then the clinical trial can be launched by the end or the second half of 2024.
Right. Then one last question before we wrap up the webinar. What are some catalysts investors can expect in the near future?
Okay, so in this case, I will divide it to several. We are talking about development in general, plus partnership that may occur during the next month. Second is the regulatory path that we are addressing with the FDA. And in parallel, we start with the FDA, but we will, when it will be possible, we will proceed also with the European agency, EMA. So this is another catalyst, important catalyst for the company to continue the discussion with the different agencies towards the clinical trials. And third is our patents entering to the provisional will enter to PCT, and the PCT may get allowance. Other PCT that we have may get allowance from the FDA and other patents authorities, because it's not only the US, it's Europe, Far East, Asia, and other companies and other countries. So the IP portfolio will be also one of the catalysts that we may show this year.
Perfect. That concludes the webinar. I thank everyone for joining today's call. Again, the company is called NurExone Biologic Inc. The ticker symbol is NRX, and it trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And it also trades on the Frankfurt Stock Exchange under ticker J90. Thank you, Yoram, and thank you, Lior. And we hope to see everyone again in the next webinar.
Thank you so much, Bob. Have a nice day.